Uganda. We're now off to Good Morning Uganda Extra. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, and here we are for a Monday conversation. This conversation is geared towards the local government and understanding why we still have local councils 1 and 2 still in office, yet they were to be elected last year when their terms had expired. Last time we held the elections was in 2018, and these current ones are still going further. We've so far had 3 extensions of their stay in office, and that is why we want to understand why up to now we are yet to have these elections held in the country. Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono does join me this morning, and it's a Good Morning Uganda kind of conversation for you, our dear viewer. For you, our dear viewer, if you'll excuse me. Now, last week, news coming in from the Ministry of Local Government further revealed that for the 3rd time, the local government ministry extended the term of office of the local councils by 180 days after it had expired. Now, 180 days is what we are going to be having for these people to stay in office. And of course, for one would wonder, 180 days, that is indicative of 6 months of stay in office, if I'm not mistaken, if my math serves me right. Now, at the top of the same conversation, in a July 2nd notice, which was published in the National Gazette and signed by the local government minister, the extension meant that both the Local Council 1 and Local Council 2 chairpersons will serve for another 6 months before an election is held. Now, part of that letter also revealed that it's extending for not a period exceeding 180 days. And that means after 180 days, hopefully, we shall have these elections here. But how did we reach here? That is the bigger question. Robert, good morning once again.
Good morning, Sonko, and of course our viewers. Thank you so much for always being with us on UBC TV. We don't take that for granted. And that's why we commit ourselves to always giving you authentic, well-researched information on matters of national importance. Now, first and foremost, Sonko, I'm afraid, and it's my humble prayer, that we don't have a precedent repeat itself. We had last held LC1 elections in 2001. Now, we had spent a period of 17 years without LC1 and LC2 that were elected according to the agreed national period of elections, because our election cycle is 5 years of office. Now, from 2001 until 2018, that was a spate of 17 years. One would say we had retired Major Ramira Ranga go to court and said that we couldn't hold elections of LC1 and 2 because the previous had been held under a multi-party dispensation. But even when that was cleared, we had a challenge that another group of activists came up and said, you know what, we cannot go in elections when students are at school. Now, government came out and was clear and said, we don't have the funds to hold elections through the secret ballot system that we usually do or have as a country. Now, secret ballot meant where you cast your vote, and it's only known to you. So the law was amended, and when it was amended, we had voting for LC 1 and 2 through lining up. Actually, voting for LC 1 through lining up. If you remember very well, it was the first time that we then had our elections by people lining behind the candidate of their choice. Now, 2018 saw government successfully, I want to say successfully, organize the LC system elections that we have currently.
Okay.
Now, their term was a 5-year term, meaning that in July last year, their term came to an end, and we had to have elected new leaders. Government came up and said they never had the funds to have these elections put in place. So still, that was hot in Parliament. Then the Minister for Local Government, Raphael Magezi, had to come up and follow the legal procedure, then go in the Gazette, then also give 60 days. When they expired, he gave another. Now we are seeing him give another same duration of time. But remember, I have a precedent in this country where it took us 17 years of those that were in office taking that period. Now, a person who had served for that period of 17 years, some were able to return in 2018 as chairpersons of that particular area. Now, with this extension, I'm afraid, and I hope we don't have that precedent. Because remember, we saw Ministry of Finance and Planning and Economic Development coming out and announcing reallocation of funds when we are going for census.
Yes.
Because the Electoral Commission had requests of about 60 billion to organize these elections. But Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development
rechanneled them to
for the census.
Yeah, to UBOS.
So that money for LC1s and 2 elections was now put on census. And I've not seen in the financial year 2024-2025, I stand to be corrected, I've not seen that vote of elections for LC1 and 2. Unless it may come in a supplementary budget, I don't know.
Okay, looking into the roles, why do we need these local councils 1 and 2? Of course, there are so many reasons as to why they are in place. Because our kind of government setting comes from the local council level as we head to the central government. But when it comes to the fact that we were supposed to elect them last year and we haven't, doesn't this undermine their duties and roles? But before we even rush into that, why is it important for us to have these representatives at the local council?
Well, first and foremost, when you talk about the local government system, its main intention was to extend services closer to the people. That's why we went into decentralization. Okay. Now, when you talk about extending services closer to the people, the LC1 and 2 then become the first, smallest, and most important unit of administration. Because we believe, or the framers of this system thought it wise, that this is a smaller group of people. It's a village, a smaller group of people. So when they elect their leadership, the chairman who comes up with his executive, remember this is an entire cabinet of its sort. Because you have the chairman, the vice chairman, secretary for women, secretary for youth, person with disability, secretary for information, environment. It is a well representation of a government of its own. Now, it is in charge of maintaining law and order. We have what we call local council courts. These will handle issues of debts not exceeding 2 million. They handle issues of land. They handle issues regarding with customary issues. And our constitution, I want to go very clear, these are not just minor courts, because village courts drive their mandate from the constitution, the Local Council Act of 2006, the Local Council Court Regulation of 2007, and the Local Government Act Cap 243. So this is legally binding. And cases they should be handling, we look at cases issues relating to debt not exceeding 2 million, contracts, assault, battery, damage to property, trespass, disputes in respect of customary land, civil disputes governed by customary law and customary land, marriage and divorce and inheritance. So they provide a very critical role. Though most Ugandans know it when you need government documentation, because this is the smallest, most important and relevant unit of administration. An LC Sonko, when you're going to get a loan, knows you. You are a resident of this area. Maybe if it's a proper village setting, even they know who your parents are, that Sonko was born there, he stays here. For Kampala, it's a bit complicated, and these urban centers. But still, your LC must know where you work. I don't know if when you go to your place where you stay, you are introduced or you introduced yourself to the LC. The questions they'll ask you, your name, where you're from, those are your parents.
I don't know if
and all
these
that.
days they actually give out even IDs, because back then we even had
Yes, they still
local
do.
council IDs.
But the problem is some people undermine this office. They only see its relevance when time knocks at their door and they need that office. So they extract information from you that is needed, that if there be where government or anything needs you closer, say a bank, if you're going to get a loan, your LC1 must approve of that loan. So when they are looking for you, your LC1 can quickly help in tracing you when you need a passport, when you need a national ID, when you need these senior 6 forms and all that. So it is an office that is very instrumental if, and I want to emphasize, if well facilitated and if respected and taken as a priority. When you talk about fighting terrorism, you see government runs to this office so much when need be. That's why you see heads of security come up and tell you, but you see LCs are not working. How do you have people in your community that you do not know? If they are working, we can fight terrorism. So it is a very vital office, I must say.
As of January 5th, this very year, political parties or political party leaders, some of the political party leaders protested against the first extension, which was, a move by the government earlier. And that one came to an expired last week. But initially, they were rioting, or they were against the extension, saying it undermined democracy, that the government was undermining democracy. What is your take on that? Because that was the second extension. Now we have a third extension.
Definitely, in a democratic country, you have a term of office. You're either re-elected into office or you step down. Now, why it undermines democracy is the fact that, Sonko, we give you a period of 5 years. If you're serving us very well, we will again vote you into office. If you've not served us very well, we'll eliminate you and vote another person. We simply don't vote for you. Now, this is a 5-year period, because in most of our political offices, it is very hard to push a person out of office. You only have to wait for a period of 5 years. Now, it undermines democracy in a way that the people are denied their right to vote at a time when they are supposed to evaluate and have a new leader in office or maintain the leader they have been having. So when we keep on postponing, definitely it undermines democracy, because we have a democratic calendar of us and when we should vote for our leaders. And people know that let's not fight this person. Maybe it's just 5 years. He's remaining with this period of time. We shall see him out of office. Now, what happens? The minister gives an extension through the National Gazette. And this person is still in office lawfully. Actually, I want to emphasize this. The current leadership of LC1, 2 are in office lawfully. The term has expired, but there is a provision that the minister can extend if it's done legally, as it's been done for the continuous 3 times now of extension.
And then when we look at some of the reasons given by the government as to why we do not have these elections again, what are some of those? And if the viewer out there is following up on why we do not have a new LC in their communities, what reasons have been cited over the past 3 extensions?
Now, the one reason, lack of funds. Electoral Commission had a budget of about 60 billion, 60 Uganda billion shillings for them to organize these elections. Now, you can only cut a coat according to your piece of cloth.
Very true.
Now, when government looks into the treasury, of course, I don't choose priorities for government. There are priorities. One would say maybe the National Development Plan guides our priorities, but also sometimes when you look at our budget, they are not in tandem. Now, when government collects money, because a budget is simply what you plan to collect as a government or receive, and how you plan to spend it. Now, when government looks at the money they have and the priorities around, when they look around, they don't have the monies needed to organize these elections. So that is the extension we are having. Honorable Raphael Majezi has continuously come out and said, we do not have the funds at this time, so let's postpone until we get the funds. When we had something similar to the funds, I earlier said, we saw it, the national census was a priority over the LC1 elections. So we saw the money reallocated to ensure that we have a national census, which was also very relevant to our country. So I think, one, what are our priorities? Maybe they are not much of a priority, per se, because 60 billion for a government is not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money, I want to say, 60 billion.
The priorities.
But when you look at priorities, one would say that, Robert, if I want to put this, let me just give an example that anyone can understand. Maybe you need a car, but you also have a piece, you want to purchase a piece of land.
Yes.
And you are a man. Now you think twice. The land could be about 60 million, and maybe the type of car with our roads you want to buy is about 60 million. So the wife and family may feel that, but daddy for sure. And the children will go on border, it is raining and all this and all that. Why didn't he buy a car? But for you, you're looking ahead and saying some years to come, let me have a shelter of my own. Let me buy land. So I think this is what government is also having. Much as Ugandans may say, we need these elections, maybe there are better priorities, like it was, the national census was a better priority.
And well, of course, according to Honorable Raphael Majezi, is that his powers, or according to the Constitution, he's only, the only limit, according to the powers he has, is supposed to be 180 days. That is why the extension is always 60 days, rather 6 months, which is 180 days. Now, on top of that, he further revealed that in case in the 180 days we do not have a budget to fund the elections for the next team that will lead the different local councils, that is 1 and 2, the chances are high that we shall have an extension once more. That means at the end of this year, at the start of the calendar year 2025, and we have no money.
Still, it's an extension.
An extension. That means the local councils will be in power for 6 months and heading to the 7th.
I told you we had a precedent where I had 17 years without local with extensions. But then it wasn't the minister by then coming up and extending. We had issues of money. That is why we resorted to voting by lining up. Which was, of course, first debated upon. But later, we had to line up behind the candidate of your choice, and we had these elections. Yes, we had political intervention where one went to court and said, we are in a multi-party dispensation. We had one who went and said, we can't have them when students are voting age at school. But now the key issue is we don't have money for these elections. But also, Sonko, we need to let the people know the impact of these extensions. One may just say, it is not that we don't have LCs.
Okay.
Ones, no. It is just that those who have been in power have had their term extended now for the 3rd time. But let's look back and understand. One, we have those that have relocated. Because for you to be on the LC committee or even chairman, it doesn't mean that you must be a permanent resident in that area forever. Some villages, you're going to go to these villages and the chairperson died. Going to be with our Lord Jesus Christ. So the vice chairperson is there trying. And remember, under this system, you vote for the chairperson. I'm using chairperson because it can be a woman or a man. Now, the chairperson elects or appoints his committee members, his executive. It is not that you vote for every member of the LC. Now, if the chairperson died, remember it is him who had the vision and the desire to lead. It is him who campaigned. It is him who came up. Now, after him being elected into power, he's going to source or look for people to work with. Secretary for Information, Women Affairs, Children Affairs, Person with Disability, the elderly, to constitute his committee. Now, if the vision bearer or the desire of this position dies, the vice chairperson may not have been so much interested. Because what is there? Sometimes there is not much to eat in LCs. Actually, government pays a chairman LC1 120,000 a year. How much money is that? A month is 10,000. But do they even get that money? If you're to do a random survey, how many chairpersons LC1 have received at the end of the year that 120,000? Now, if this person passed away, these other people may not really have that passion for the village, because I can be called, you work on TV and the chairperson tells you, Robert, if I'm appointed and I go through, you're going to be the secretary for information.
Robert, let's drive this conversation to how people perceive the presence of their local councils. One Solomon Onapa, who is the chairman of Bombay Village, revealed that, that is in Oyam, revealed that they are facing difficulties in mobilizing locals, especially the people that belong to their local councils. And this brings me to a conversation you've been building on the fact that some local councils have shifted, like local council chairpersons have shifted.
Some have
now let's
died,
also look into the
interest.
people themselves. As much as we are calling in for these elections to be held, you do realize that at times, maybe us who reside even in these local councils care less about our local council representatives. How about that take? Do you think the community is well aware, and are they even interested? Because at least with the Member of Parliament, people are interested to know. Are they having the same kind of spirit when it comes to their local councils, and what can be done?
Well, for urban centers, there could be a difference or lack of interest. But when you go to rural settings, you find that many of these are still interested, because so much that happens there automatically rotates around the LCs. You want to sell a cow,
the LC has to be in.
The LC must give you, write for you a letter.
Land.
Land, the LC must write you a letter. Sort of like in Kampala, where you're going to buy from these land real estate companies, where you're going to come with a lawyer. You know, but for village, you have to get, the LC must be in the know, or you'll buy things you don't understand. Government programs all be run through the LC system. So there's that awareness. You can't be in a village and you don't know your chairperson. Security. There we still have Secretary for Defense very active. In some areas, those patrols are still there at village level. So when it comes to urban, because there are a lot of villages, even the police is far away from you. When someone steals your chicken, the first place is to go to LCs. Now in Kampala and urban settings, why there is that gap of relevance of LCs, that there are other alternatives. Well, sometimes it's out of ignorance. If I want to buy land, I have my lawyer. I mean, when I say go through the LC, maybe my lawyer will go there for due diligence to affirm and confirm. If someone offends me, police is just a stone throw away. I'll go to police. If we have any dispute, maybe my lawyer, discuss with my lawyer. So in urban centers, their relevance is a bit minimal. And because of the high population and less facilitation of this office, it becomes also another problem. That our one Sonko will go to Chira, the landlord is not so much bothered, and the occupier gets an apartment, start doing life differently. Whereas in the village, you won't just go. There is still that concern because of the low population. So that is where you find that the relevance. And then in Kampala, there are other alternatives, offices that can go, that you can bypass the LC office. For example, how many cases that are supposed to be handled by the LC are running to police? And police, I don't know, but I think they should be informed to tell the public that this is a matter that is handled by LCs. You have a debt not exceeding 2 million. These issues, go to the LC. Why waste your time, go through Simanyi civil, this is a civil case, now that and that. You know, you have these small land disputes. Go to LCs. So that is the gap between urban. That urban, there are other alternatives. We can go to either ignorantly
Okay.
Urban, the high population, and also the fact that these LCs are not well facilitated. Tell me any government input into LCs apart from elections and the payment of 120 per month. But these offices in urban centers, Sonko, one, you rent. People may not, in villages, you just go to the chairman's place.
But you see, also in Barra, there was a chairperson who shared that there are places where the local council chairperson passed on and they are yet to receive a replacement. Doesn't this also kind of give us a picture of the local government paying less attention about the officers of the local councils? Lest we forget, even the kind of money they receive as salary is also a pain to
which
listen
is for
to.
the chairperson only. Now, it is believed that this is a voluntary office. Indeed it is, yet it has a lot of work. Now, when we delay, when we keep on extending, and I said this earlier, Sonko, that we have people who have died, we have people who have shifted from these particular areas, mostly in the urban settings, and bad enough, their replacement must come through an election. Now, what people are doing, automatically when a chairman dies, the vice chairperson takes over. Now, what happens when a secretary for defense dies? Who automatically takes over? The whole burden now either goes to the chairperson, he becomes also the secretary for defense. What happens when that in charge of elder persons? Because on the committee you must have that of elder persons. What happens when secretary for youth dies and the chairman is as old as 60 years? Now he takes over that position. So that is the danger, that who is going to push for the issues of the youth on that executive if one died, if one relocated, and 5 years are over for us to fill in and we are just having extensions. They're incapacitated in one way or the other. And on addition to the extensions, the problem becomes when even there isn't so much commitment and financial support given to these people. Because if they're in charge of mobilization, how are you going to mobilize people, Songo? You're going to walk an entire village. Today they have megaphones, echizinda. That thing uses batteries. You have to pay a young man who is going to move on a bicycle or a boda calling people for a village council meeting. You know, the government will send in a program and they expect the LCs to ensure they popularize that program. Now, this man, this woman, how is he going to carry out effective communication? That is why non-government organizations, some of their programs go through. Why? Because when they come on the village, they introduce themselves to the chairperson, the executive, they facilitate. They'll ask, okay, if we need a megaphone to take on the message, how much is this? You give them a budget. That is why some of these people have become habitual thieves when it comes to land issues. Because a man will tell you, if I'm renting a one room in an urban center, that is about 200,000 a month. I must have a computer. It must look as an office, for sure. You know, because perception and how we look in Uganda matters so much. Even a smart fool may be assumed to be wise. Today when you go to church, pastors, a person wants to know the car the pastor is driving, the suit he's putting on, the atmosphere. When you work on TV, so you can't be a presenter and you just dress fakara. So even the office of the LC, for someone to look at it and know that this, because you must have that appearance for an urban center. So you must rent something decent, have a computer, have some chairs, have a desk there. All these require resources. But where are the resources coming from? So it is a fertile ground somehow for corruption. When I tell you, when you reach in the area and you're going to ask, okay, I want to introduce myself to the LC. Usual. And second, this office also is tricky. It's more like a full-time office. And sometimes people will ask, why is it that you very educated people live in our community and this is your chairman, LC1? Because anytime someone is coming to this office, sometimes you must hire someone even to be there. Full-time. Full-time, a child is going to go missing in an area and they'll rush that child to the LC. Full-time, there could be domestic violence anywhere. Full-time, a landlord is having issues with a tenant. Full-time, so there is so much that happens under this office, which we've neglected, which we've not prioritized that much, yet we demand so much out of it. We are not feeding a cow, yet we expect milk out of it to pay fees for our children. This is what is happening with the local council 1 and 2. And because of that, this office is losing amongst the people because they are tempted. I don't support, but they are tempted to develop other tendencies for sustainability of the office, to be relevant to the people. When you go for a letter, you want a loan, and the LC chairman has to sign. Government gave them stamps. Has to sign, he'll tell you, Wana Sonko, you're going to get a loan. But you look at the office here, we have rent, we even paper on which I'm going to write for you. This, is it headed paper? We printed it with money. So brother, can you leave a 50 here? Then Sonko will go complaining. But LCs, these have become crooks, these have become thugs. But brother Sonko, how do you expect me, who is working on voluntary basis, as a chairperson, to go I print papers, headed paper, to have this printer, to write for you a letter? Where am I getting the money from? So you need to sustain this office.
Okay. And away from that, as we are summing up with this conversation, Chirabo, looking into what needs to be done to make sure that we people who actually live or reside in communities get to understand the importance of the local councils, because in the urban setting, trust me, very few people fully buy into the idea of knowing their LCs, unless, like you said, unless when there is need for your LC to put a signature onto a given document, or maybe when you're in trouble and the first office you can run to, minus the police, is the local council 1 or 2. Let's look into what can we do, one from the local government perspective, and then the local council chairpersons as well. What can they do to ensure that power goes back to them fully, especially when it comes to running of community issues and maybe events, and then also trying to put the communities back in order, because that is something that is lacking in urban settings.
First, for the people holding this office, know your mandate. You know, ignorance is a very bad thing. Many of them are in this office, but they have never even read the law that puts them and empowers them in this office. So they're easily bullied. The chairperson knocks at your gate. It's a constitutional office. He has the mandate and powers, and someone simply says, leave my gate, I don't deal with LCs. You have the power. The law gives you, the Constitution of Uganda gives you power. So if you don't know the power and authority within you, you're going to be bulldozed around, you're going to be exploited, your office will not have any significance in it, because it is going to be undermined because you're ignorant. 2, to the local government and government at large, let's support this office. This office has been abandoned. No meaningful support comes to it. So because it's not empowered, we've had empowering seminars, conferences. We've had people go to Chankwanzi, NALI, National Leadership Institute. When do we take these people under, even if we begin region by region, by the end of 5 years at least, they have that information. They have these seminars that have empowered them to understand, and then financially we support them, because it is a vital office, very vital in terms of security, very vital in terms of health, very vital in environment protection, very vital in all aspects. LC1 and 2 are very vital, but we have abandoned them. Then the people interest yourself in this office and be law-abiding. Because at the end of the day, you need this office, yet you never paid attention to. You've been in an area for 5 years, you want a quick loan, you're looking for the office of the LC, which you should have known before. You know, thieves have attacked you. Your Secretary for Defense, by the way, has all these connections. It's just a call and say, defense, if he's very interested in his office, he knows the area police. I've seen people where thieves have attacked. He's very near to the LC and the police post, but he's calling, you know, Anderson Aurora gave us a word, Gamba no. But he's calling someone very far but high in rank to help. The person he's calling doesn't know even where you stay, doesn't know who are the quickest people that can give you quick response. So interest yourself in knowing. And finally, to government, let's ensure we have funds to organize these elections after this expiry of these 6 months, that we don't have history repeat itself, but we have these people in office, because it is damaging. They're incapacitated. Most of these executives are no longer fully constituted. Okay. Some have shifted, some have died, some have lost interest. Some have lost interest. They're no longer bothered. So, where are we leaving the Ugandans and the mandate of this office? At the end of the day, we shall talk about people, terrorists. We are going to spend so much money. You know, prevention is better than cure. Empower these LCs that Sonko, you cannot leave Nambinonya and come to Machindye without proper documentation. If these are made musts, then why would you spend billions in fighting terrorism? Because you shall be able to identify these, all forms of these criminalities before they happen and save the budget of defense. Health. Most of the diseases we have in our country are preventable diseases. If we empower these LCs, like previously, who move around, they have the power to have ordinances, laws within that area. Laws against drunkenness. You're saving a lot of money. You're spending in Butabika for people who have mental illness as a result of drug abuse and alcoholism. So there are many areas, if we focus, that we shall save government a lot of money, we shall save Ugandans the insecurity we have, and so much, if we only give attention to this office that it deserves, both financially, in terms of human resource, and ensuring that we have these elections as stipulated on our election calendar.
Well, and there you have it. For the viewers out there who have been part of this conversation, thank you very much. I've been with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. The conversation was looking into the extension of the local council 1 and 2's term or stay in office for the next 6 months. I will end this with a comment. This one says, hi Robert, local council's extension in office is lawful, but does it have a maximum number when it can be done? And then he says, this election should be in the next priorities. We need new leaders, seriously. He didn't leave his name, but he sent in a text via SMS. But of course, this is the 3rd time we are having extensions, and this extension takes us till the end of the year. So we wait. If we do not have money in January, another extension is most probably the likely solution, according to the powers that that the Minister of Local Government has, that is Honorable Raphael Majezi. But from the team, and then Robert and I, we are out of here till tomorrow morning. We wish you all the best for your day, and a good morning at it. From the Good Morning Ugandan team, we shall be back from 6:30 a.m. on Tuesday to make sure that we inspire your mornings. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Hey, business people of Uganda.